AFR Talk.
It is AFR Talk. The broadcast is AFA Today, a broadcast originated by Don Wildman 35 years ago, I think, is the length of time. And what an honor it is to be with you every single day to help obliterate confusion, amplify truth, and to pursue clarity here in the middle of the day. Kevin McCullough is my name, 888-589-8840. We're talking about Brendan Eich. We're talking about the Gestapo or Nazi-like tactics that were used by a group of people that wanted to not have a vibrant discussion about marriage or sex. They wanted to shut down what the other side had to say. They want to take away the other side's First Amendment free speech and religious expression rights. That's where we're at. This is morphed into dictatorial, tyrannical, intolerance. Can't have anybody that says anything different than the talking points of the gay activist. It's kind of sad. And my question has been since the middle of last week, hey, Mr. Eich gave a contribution that for the first time demonstrated he believed marriage was between a man and a woman. What did President Obama believe in that time? Let's roll this piece of tape.
What I believe is that marriage is between a man and a woman.
As far as why, what in your religious faith calls you to be against gay marriage?
What I believe in my faith is that a man and a woman, when they get married, are performing something before God. I believe that marriage is the union between a man and a woman. Now, for me as a Christian, it's also a sacred union. God's in the mix.
I think same-sex couples should be able to get married.
President Obama, 24 hours after making history, he's making money.
Did he do it because he thought it was right, or did he do it for political reasons?
All right, that's enough. We got plenty there. So that was after his second election. The other cuts came in a variety of times prior to that, but he held that belief in 2008. He went to some group there, whoever he was in front of, you heard the applause. That room overwhelmingly agreed with his position that he believed that marriage was a union between a man and a woman. That was the belief he held in 2008. It's identical to what Brendan Eich believed in 2008. In 2014, after doing almost no other expressing of that, Mr. Eich is now seen as unfit to hold the CEO job of his company. Somehow, amazingly, ironically, full of mystery and wonder that we cannot yet explain because it is not yet intellectually clear how such intellectual dishonesty can be allowed to pervade our system. President Obama, who had the same belief in 2008, is allowed to keep his job in 2014. 888-589-8840. I don't say any of this because I have any hatred in my heart for anybody. But this goes beyond even just the gay marriage thing. This is a complete intolerance of somebody that disagrees with you. 888-589-8840. Let's go to Melissa in West Virginia. Melissa, welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough. Glad you're here.
Hi, Kevin. This is Melissa. I'm calling. Hi. I am calling very concerned, obviously. I appreciate so much what you're doing. I'm a physician, and I see homosexual patients and treat them the same as I do any other patient. It's scary, the time that we're coming into now, but not scary at the same time. 2 Timothy 3 says, in the end, perilous times shall come, and it talks about homosexuality and things like we're dealing with. And when we take and implement a president like we have that has totally gotten off the principles, the biblical principles that this country was founded on, this is what we're getting. Mm-hmm. Homosexuality rampant, and it's an abomination in the sight of God. So you either believe the Bible or you don't. It's as simple as that. So it shouldn't be even a law, because if we go by the Bible, it's not even an option.
Well, and here's the thing. We do live in a pluralistic society, which means that there are people, judges, that have come along and said, well, you can't force one view of faith onto anyone else, and I'm not in favor of that. But up until now, up until this last week, you've had at least the appearance of a pluralistic discussion going on, where people from many different views are allowed to come to the table and say, this is what I believe, and here's why. We've turned a different corner in this particular issue, Melissa and everyone else, because the new kind of bold frontier that has been transgressed here is that now we have the right to shut you down if we disagree with you. We have the right to use the force of bullying. We have the right to say to those that share a difference of opinion, we don't think that your First Amendment rights count. And all these people who have for years said, well, it's our right to dissent, it's our job to dissent, and when someone is disagreeing, or when we disagree with someone, we should dissent louder. They're not willing to extend those same courtesies to people that disagree with them. It's scorched earth. You got to have this guy's head. And let me just throw by comparison what we did with World Vision versus what is happening with Mozilla. With World Vision, I asked you to contact World Vision, not to fire anybody. I didn't ask you to say, make heads roll. We called and we asked them, is there a rational reason why you chose to now embrace same-sex marriage in your code of conduct, when that's clearly unbiblical and you say that you're founded on biblical purposes? As far as I know, Mozilla never said that they were founded on biblical or anti-biblical purposes. So it's not even a relevant comparison in terms of that. World Vision voluntarily said we're going to hold ourselves to a biblical standard. Mozilla didn't. Secondly, World Vision was breaking a contract with hundreds of thousands of donors across the country, and we didn't call for anybody to get fired. We didn't say that they had to, make people's heads roll. We didn't do anything. We asked questions. We asked them, "Are you holding true to the biblical standard? And if you don't think you should anymore, then you should you be there? Is the organization changing?" We just wanted to know what was going on. In this case. And that's public. That's their public policy. That's the policy they had with their donors, with the public, with the face of what they're doing. In this case, this was a guy's donation that he made in his private life on his own 5 years ago. Probably didn't ever talk about it. Probably wrote the check, never mentioned it again to most people. It was an activist that was thumbing through files looking for something to use against him. And they said, oh, hey, he gave $1,000 to Prop 8 back in 2008. We'll use this. And so they did. What we're talking about here is not just the debate between what is biblical marriage, what is non-biblical marriage, and which should be the standard for the day. We're talking about the willingness by one side to say to the other, you absolutely are not allowed to believe, think, or say anything that criticizes us. Friends, if that's the level of where we're at with the discussion, then we've got a whole lot more problems coming our way. And as someone said in the last segment, there's already a list out of all CEOs that are out there that have donated to that cause and similar causes over the last few years, and you can guarantee there's going to be some action now trying to get these guys out of there. Let's go to Joe in Texas. Hello, Joe. Welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough. So glad that you're with us.
Oh, yes. I just really have a quick comment. I probably said it a long time before. Back in the 70s and 80s, the homosexual community received a lot of flack from everybody. It was a really bad thing. Everybody cursed at them, treated them badly and everything. And then over time, we've come to where we're at today. They're even, allowed to get married in most cases. But here's the problem I have with the whole issue, and that is where we're going to draw the line in the sand. And that question comes up to the fact that if you ask a homosexual and a pedophile why do they do the things that they do, they will tell you the same exact answer. So what does that tell you about our future?
Well, I'm not sure that that's provable. I don't know. I've never asked a pedophile and a homosexual the same question.
I have. I've actually asked. We have a pedophile that lives in our neighborhood, and he came up to me asking if he could be forgiven in heaven and everything. And when we were having the conversation, I was asking him, what made you do that? And he says, well, I just was born this way. This is just the way I feel. I don't have control over those feelings. It's just the way I am. And I said, have you even tried to attempt to, have a relationship with an adult? He goes, I don't have the same feelings. He said, my feelings are only for young people. And he said, I can't help myself. And he doesn't care if it's a boy or a girl, by the way. And if you go talk to a homosexual, they're going to tell you the same thing.
Very similarly, yes, I would agree with that, at least on that one piece of anecdotal evidence. But let me just quickly add, Joe, and I thank you for your call. Look, all you have to understand is that sin is motivated by one thing. All sin, any sexual sin, it's all motivated around one thing. It's what I want for myself. Selfishness is at the root of every sinful act ever committed. There's no great sin that's made that takes place out of a great desire to do something good for other people. Sin is what I want for myself. It is tangibly associated with something that gratifies me, that gets to me. At the end of the day, what we are dealing with is a society that is obsessed with itself, about itself, for itself, by itself, of itself, all the time. It's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week gig. There's a very narcissistic element to this. I'm important. I should be served. I deserve this. It's all about me, me, me. And whether people are engaging in extramarital adultery or having sex before marriage or engaging in homosexual activity or other types of sin, of which the Bible is replete with talking about a whole bunch of them, at the end of the day, in that regard, there is this common, similar thing. It's how I was made. I feel like I have the right to satisfy this in my life. And I don't wish for people that struggle with things that are non-traditional in terms of feelings, I don't wish any harm to them at all. I don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. At the same time, I don't think we can structure a world that is designed to satiate our own individual feelings all the time and have it come out looking anything remotely like a good world. Inherent selfishness leads to inherent destruction. And we can't stop that from happening by justifying it, saying, well, it's my selfishness that's being advanced this time. 888-589-8840. Let's go to Logan in Louisiana next. Hey, Logan.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
I just have a real quick comment. I've been asked a lot by Christians and non-Christians alike why Christian Americans should be involved in, like, telling other people how they should live their lives and whatnot. And I believe it all comes back to the fact that God is just. And when we sin as individuals, we deserve punishment as individuals. And Jesus came to die to wash that sin away. So I started to ask myself, how do we, as a nation, the entity of a nation, sin? And that is by allowing sin to legally take place. You're always going to have people within a nation that sin, but when the nation itself sins is when it allows these things. And that is the exact fact why we should be concerned about the situation.
Well, if we don't, a good word of warning, Logan, if we do not get to the point in the next number of months with this election coming up in the fall and the presidential election coming up, next year or in 2016, if we don't get to the point where we understand that the decisions we make and how we live and how we have relationships with people around us and how we vote and how we choose to get involved or not get involved in our local school board, everything else that's going on in our states, et cetera, if we bury our head in the sand, we are going to see an onslaught of secular atheism run itself rampant over us in ways that we won't even recognize our country at the end of the day. I don't recognize our country today, sitting here today, since Mr. Eich resigned last week. I just think that the message that sent was a very powerful one to the people that oppose truth, that want to see their own sexual agenda be put forward in every way possible. And I can't argue that there's anything that disproves that. That was a huge win for the activist side. We've got to ready ourselves, sturdy ourselves, understand and articulate to one another, to the people that are not yet decided, the ones that are living in our neighborhoods and live around us, and we have a chance to talk to them. We should ask them questions. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? Try to figure out exactly how they do think so that you can then advance the discussion to a place of truth. Why? Because we want to obliterate confusion. Confusion is where this stuff prospers. Confusion is where this stuff takes hold, takes root, and grows quickly. We need to obliterate that. We need to take truth and we need to understand it from its basic core, and then we need to amplify it. We need to make it more present, more understood, and yes, mostly by how we live, but secondarily by what we say at times. And lastly, we need to pursue clarity. We need to always be understanding that God is the author of that which is true. We need to pursue that at all times. And then we have the position and the right to say back to our culture, okay, we're participating in this process, and here's what we believe the culture should be. I'm Kevin McCullough. Thank you for being with us today. We've got a great week ahead for you. I hope that you'll join us every day. Share-a-thon starts tomorrow, and I hope you're praying now about what God does as we try to push back the darkness over the next 3 days, and your calls and your help will be supportive of us in a hugely encouraging way. Stay with us. Brian Fisher coming your way next with Focal Point here on AFR Talk.